Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, and welcome to Prog Chattery 777. We're talking about Yes, and we've made it to the year 1973 with a controversial release. This is Tales from Topographic Oceans. This is a very divisive album amongst fans of the band and fans of the genre of prog rock. I think some people look at this as being the best of prog, and some people look at this as being the worst of prog. So it's certainly interesting. It is a double album, obviously, a double concept album. Uh, and the concept is a bit funky. John Anderson read a footnote about a book called Autobiography of a Yogi, and described these four shastras. I mean, I'm not exactly sure exactly what it is, but they decided, based on these shastras, whatever they are, that they would do a double album, 4 sides with 4 songs, each song representing one of the four shastras. And so, 4 songs, 4 sides, that means we get four 20-minute epics that comprise the album, which I think ultimately leads to its downfall, for me personally. Obviously, the previous album, Close to the Edge, was the first time they ever did the sidelong thing. And they just kept arranging it in the studio, and it ended up working, and the album ended up selling very, very well. It was Close to the Edge is an early pinnacle. It could be the pinnacle of Yes. So how do you follow that up? Well, obviously the full sidelong song worked well, so let's do 4 of them. And that kind of became the focus of the album, and I think that's that's the band was more focused on, let's make sure that every side is just a full song. And so there's a lot of padding, there's a lot of stretching things out that don't really need to be stretched out, and it's all about, let's make it go the entire side. And I know what they were going for. They were going for, they wanted this to be the big, major, the absolute majorest of major things, something universal, I guess. And you can see a certain parallel with, say, Genesis. They with Selling England, I think that was their pinnacle. Of those early Genesis albums, Selling England is just perfect. And they followed it up with this big double album concept. And, try to make this huge, universal, crazy storyline. And I think The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway holds a lot better than this does, because the way it's arranged, you get bits of songs, and there's it's not necessarily a cohesive storyline, but there's a narrative that you can follow. I don't really feel there's a narrative to this album. It's just John Anderson wittering on about something he later admitted he knew very little about, this autobiography of a yogi or whatever. It's, like I said, it's ultimately a flawed album. They were trying to do a Lamb or a Wall, but I think the Lamb and the Wall are both far superior things. But I'm not. It's not to say that everything's bad on this album. There's a lot of great moments on it, and I think 2 of the songs probably warrant the 20-minute length as well. The middle songs, sides 2 and 3. That's where the real problems lie. If there's another criticism I can have with regards to the music, is that it doesn't really rock. You listen to Fragile, and you got Roundabout, and the crazy sections of Heart of the Sunrise, and Close to the Edge too. The title track, Close to the Edge. I mean, it rocks. It's got a heavy, you can really to it. This is, for the most part, for this huge long album, for the most part, it is very slow tempo, kind of lackadaisical sounding for unfortunately quite a bit of it. And that kind of leads me to the next thing I'm going to talk about, which is obviously this is the first album that does not feature Bill Bruford on the drums. After Close to the Edge, Bruford, knew that was the pinnacle of what that particular lineup was going to achieve. So, he bowed out and joined King Crimson. He was replaced by Alan White, who is a phenomenal drummer. He's a complete opposite style from Bruford. So I mean, the sound of the band, you know, the sound of the band has changed quite a bit with Alan White. And I don't think this album is a really good introduction for Alan White, because the fact of the matter is he is a fantastic drummer. He's a phenomenal drummer. He ended up having a very long and successful career with Yes. He joined for the Close to the Edge tour. Bruford did not tour Close to the Edge. So I mean, he'd been with the band, and I mean, he'd helped establish a new sound with the band. But again, the fact that this album doesn't really rock, and a lot of the songs are very kind of slow tempo and brooding, and they just kind of keep going, it doesn't really give Alan White a chance to really show off his skills. But he would on the next album, which we'll talk about next, obviously. So yeah, I'll start talking about the massive compositions. I can't really call them songs. I guess it's all supposed to be one big thing. Quick note on the album cover. This is one of my favorite album covers ever. I absolutely love the album cover to Tales from Topographic Oceans. Well, you get the Chichen Itza pyramid and some Nazca lines there. Just classic Roger Dean stuff. We get the fishies. It's all an underwater scene. Fantastic album cover. Really like it. But okay, anyway, the songs. So the songs that we're not going to call songs because they're epics. The first epic is The Revealing Science of God. Not the best title in the world. Pretty, that could be guilty of the pretentious word, certainly. But this song, the first song, I think is definitely one of the songs that warrants the 20-minute length. There's enough repeating themes and there's enough coherence to the composition that it is one thing. They probably could have, it's about 21 minutes. It is still quite long. They probably could have cut a few bits out of it. And it is quite good. It's probably the best on the album, actually. I think the first song on the album is the best one. The intro is just fantastic. We get some atmospheric sounds in that, and I mean that's a real John Anderson highlight moment for me. That what's the first line? Dawn of light lying between a silence and old sources. That whole section, that big build up is just phenomenal. And Wakeman's keyboards are kind of underneath, and we hear that Alan White march. Bring it. There's just a great intro, a great long extended build up. And that's the kind of John Anderson stuff I like. I like the rhythms that he uses for those kind of it's almost meditative bits. And then that winds up into a great theme. You could call it the main theme of the album. That which comes back later on, which is cool. And then the thing is, the song it starts to get really mellow after that. This big build up comes up, we get the big theme explodes, and then it just kind of starts grooving along, and like the most active part is kind of we get that, and that's kind of the heaviest it gets. You compare that to the song Close to the Edge, which has moments that are just in your face. Like I said, it's the best song on the album, but I don't think it has anything on Close to the Edge, personally. But like I said, the song itself is coherent, and everything kind of winds its way up nicely. It actually finishes on that same kind of rhythmic John Anderson bit, which is quite good. The other thing worth noting is, obviously, Rick Wakeman. I think I called him Alan before. Oh my goodness. Rick Wakeman's he wasn't a big fan of what was going on in the band, and I think there was certainly a bit of tension. There was kind of two camps. There was Steve Howe, the guitar player, and John Anderson, which were really for this whole for epic idea, and Alan Whitey was just kind of indifferent because it's like, hey, I'm the drummer, what's up? And Chris Squire and Rick Wakeman, I don't think were too pleased with how was going on, but it's like Rick Wakeman famously was very critical of the album when it came out. But I'm getting off topic. I'm getting way off topic. We're going to talk about the second song on the album, the second side, which is The Remembering. This song actually makes me very angry, and the reason is because I think the remembering, if you, there's a lot of it that you could just get rid of entirely, and there's also a lot of it that they could have edited together and could have gotten like three really solid, maybe 6 or 7 minute songs. There's some really great themes in there, but again, this is where you really see them deliberately trying to stretch out, stretch the song out to fill the whole side. And it's unfortunate because that main theme for that kind of opens it. It's very sleepy. It's a slow theme, but I really like it. It's very English. Dun, 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 dun. I really like that. I love that theme. And of course, at the very end of the song, there's a big, or close to the end of the song, we get the big Rick Wakeman. He repeats the theme, and the band is on fire, and that's a real highlight moment of the album. Actually, is towards the end of the remembering, after the relayer bit. What does he say? Fail safe now. Such a good part. But if you were to take like that, the quiet version of that theme, and maybe parts of the folky bit, and they could have condensed that to a brilliant 7-minute piece, and it would have been wonderful. And then the other bits of that song could have been put into a piece. But again, we have to make sure the songs are long, and that's the funny thing. This is a really focused album. The band, I think they're super focused, but they're focused on the wrong thing. They're not focused on making good songs. I mean, they're making great music, but yeah, it's kind of ridiculous at the end of the day. 4 epics. But we're moving on. And I should say the parts of the remembering actually have some of my favorite bits of the whole album. But again, because of the way it's arranged, it just makes me angry that it could have been so much better, I think. So yeah, anyway, the third side, the third epic, it starts to get a little tiring now at this point. We get The Ancient is what it's called, and it is I really like the end. The very end bit, it's basically divided into 2 separate things. The end is this nice acoustic bit. We get a lot of fantastic Steve Howe guitar playing. We get it's kind of quintessential Steve Howe and John Anderson kind of stuff, and it's a really nice little piece. And the first bit, the intro bit, is 10 minutes of just kind of madness, which I'm all for. The first couple of minutes of it with all the jangly percussion. That's a really cool bit. I love that bit. But after about 5 minutes of it, and of course Howe's got all the crazy guitars going on there. It's great for the first couple of minutes. The next couple of minutes, it's getting tiring. The next couple of minutes, it's getting annoying, and then it's just too much. And again, it's an example of them trying to pad the album out and fill out all those sides. But like I said, it works its way into the acoustic bit, which is actually really nice. And kind of quintessential. Yes, it's probably another highlight of the album, actually. The second bit, the acoustic bit. But it certainly does not warrant 20 minutes. It's 18 minutes, but it does not need to be that long. Let me wind the album up with Ritual. This is the 4th side of the album, and again, this is the other one where I could say, yeah, that is coherent enough to warrant its 21 minutes. The big problem with it is that it takes a whole bunch of other themes of the album, and there's variations of them. Like we get little kind of variations from the remembering. We get the do 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 do. We get that from the revealing. There's all kinds of little things that come back, and I can see what they're trying to do. They're trying to wrap the whole album up and bring it back with bring all these themes back. But by the time you get to Ritual, you're just kind of like, oh, this is another 20 minutes. It's going to be another thing that just keeps going and going and going. So I actually enjoy Ritual most. I enjoy most of these songs separate from the album. I find it very difficult to sit and listen to front to back, unlike say The Lamb or The Wall. But taken separately, the Ritual is actually a really good song. We get the big Nous, Sommes du Soleil bit, which is I think quite a famous bit. And it's the one point of the album where it starts to rock. There's a few sections in Ritual that are, you know, quite high energy and excellent. So yeah, there it is. That's Tales of Topographic Oceans. I hope I haven't sounded too critical. You know, I certainly don't know everything. Uh, but for me, it's really not one of my favorite things they ever did. I think the real classic stuff is with Bruford, but I'm not knocking Alan White. And there's some really classic stuff yet to come, actually. In fact, the next album is probably my favorite Yes album, which is interesting. So stay tuned for that. Next time I'm going to be talking about Relayer. So yeah, that'll be really good. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry, I've been distracted. I've been sitting here looking out the window, and I saw people riding a horseback earlier, and just before I started talking about Ritual, and I got a little bit distracted. Sorry about that. So yeah, that's it. That's it for Tales from Topographic Oceans. Stay tuned next time for Relayer. We will see you all next time. So hit me a subscribe, like, and comment, and yeah. Thanks for tuning in. Cheers.